Most people don't stay broke because they lack intelligence. They stay broke because their brain keeps running patterns. Patterns that were built long ago in environments that no longer exist. Patterns that feel normal. Patterns that feel responsible. Patterns that feel like common sense. But quietly, invisibly, these patterns steal years. They steal freedom. They make people work harder and harder while ending up in exactly the same place. What you're about to hear isn't a lecture about budgeting. It isn't a list of money tips. This is a map of the mental architecture that separates people who build wealth from people who only dream about it. Some of these patterns will feel uncomfortable. Some will feel like a mirror. That's exactly the point. Before we begin, everything in this video is educational and psychological in nature. It's designed to help you think more clearly about money. It is not financial advice, and nothing here should be taken as a recommendation to make any specific financial decision. If you enjoy decoding the psychology behind money, wealth, and the hidden systems that shape human behavior, welcome to Rich Explained. Here are 15 hidden thinking patterns that keep intelligent, hardworking people broke, and what the shift looks like when you finally escape them. Pattern 1. Fast reward versus delayed reward. Your brain was not designed for wealth. It was designed for survival. And survival, for most of human history, meant one thing: take the reward now. The fruit on the tree. The rest after the hunt. The relief after the threat. The brain that waited starved. So when you feel the pull of instant gratification, that's not weakness. That's ancient wiring doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is that wealth is built entirely in the gap between impulse and action. The person who waits 6 months to buy the thing they could buy today, while investing the difference, is playing a completely different game. Not a discipline game, a biology game, a game of reprogramming what feels like a reward. The shift isn't about saying no to pleasure. It's about training your brain to find the same sense of reward in watching a number grow as it does in watching a purchase arrive. Behavioral researchers have long observed that our reward systems are trainable, that what we practice feeling good about, we get better at feeling good about. Rich people aren't more disciplined. Their rewards just arrive from different places. The person who escapes this pattern doesn't resist the reward. They relocate it. Pattern 2. Status buying versus asset building. There is a quiet war being fought in every mall, every car dealership, every luxury app and fast fashion checkout. And most people are losing it, without ever knowing they entered it. Status buying is the act of spending money to signal wealth to other people. The watch that costs 3 months of savings. The car that impresses coworkers who will forget about it in a week. The outfit that earns a compliment from someone who will never buy you dinner. The brutal truth? Most people who look wealthy are not building wealth. They are converting future security into present appearances. Assets are the opposite. An asset puts money in your pocket, whether you're awake or asleep. It doesn't care what you drive. It doesn't post photos. It doesn't need to impress anyone. The person who quietly drives the used car, lives in the smaller house, and invests the difference isn't losing the status war. They've simply opted out of it entirely and started winning a different game, one that pays dividends long after the luxury item has depreciated to zero. Look rich, stay broke, or build quietly and actually become free. Pattern 3. Cost thinking versus return thinking. There are 2 completely different questions a person can ask when they encounter money. The first, what does this cost me? The second, what does this return to me? Cost thinkers see the price. Return thinkers see the trajectory. Cost thinkers won't spend $200 on a book or course that could transform their career. Return thinkers ask, if this investment changes one decision I make in the next 5 years, what's the value of that? This pattern shows up everywhere. The gym membership that costs $50 a month versus the avoided medical bills a decade from now. The online course that costs $400 versus the promotion it unlocks. The mentor relationship that costs time versus the decades it compresses. Cost thinking is not frugality. Frugality is wisdom. Cost thinking is a failure to run the full equation, seeing only the output column on the spreadsheet and ignoring the entire returns column. Wealthy people spend more in many categories than poor people. They just spend on things that grow. Cost thinkers confuse price with value. Return thinkers know they are almost never the same thing. Pattern 4. Spending to feel better versus building to feel better. This one lives in the emotional basement of almost every financial struggle. When stress peaks, when the job is exhausting, when the relationship is tense, when life feels out of control, the brain seeks relief. And retail therapy works. Research in consumer psychology suggests that making a purchase can create a brief but real sense of agency and control, particularly when other areas of life feel chaotic. The checkout confirmation delivers something that feels like a decision made, a problem solved. The problem is the bill. Not just the financial bill, the psychological one, because spending to feel better creates a loop. Stress leads to spending. Spending creates debt. Debt creates more stress, which leads to more spending. Building to feel better is structurally different. It replaces the loop with a ladder. The person who, under stress, opens their investment app instead of their shopping app, who contributes something, however small, experiences a different emotional reward. Not relief. Pride. Not escape. Direction. The dollar amount doesn't matter at first. The pattern does. Because every time you build under pressure, instead of spending under pressure, you're wiring a different response to financial stress. You're teaching yourself that discomfort is a signal to create, not consume. The next pattern traps some of the most motivated, driven people in the room. If you've ever told yourself you just need to stay inspired, keep reading. Pattern 5. Motivation thinking versus system thinking. Motivation is a feeling. And like all feelings, it comes and goes. Motivation thinkers wait for it. They wait to feel inspired before starting the business. They wait to feel energized before going to the gym. They wait to feel confident before asking for the raise. And on the days the motivation arrives, they move fast. And on the days it doesn't, nothing gets built. System thinkers understand something deeper, that the architecture of their day determines their outcomes, not their emotional state on any given morning. A system is a decision made in advance when you are calm and clear that removes the need to decide again when you are tired, stressed, or distracted. The automatic investment transfer, the recurring savings contribution, the scheduled content creation block, the pre-committed workout time. Warren Buffett didn't build Berkshire Hathaway on inspiration. He built it on a repeatable decision-making framework that ran identically whether he felt like it or not. The question isn't, how do I stay motivated? The question is, what system can I build that works even when I'm not? Motivation is fuel. Systems are the engine. You need both, but only one of them runs without you. Pattern 6. Certainty addiction. Here is one of the most expensive patterns in this entire list. The certainty addict will not move until they are sure, until the market conditions are perfect, until they have more information, until the timing is right, until they fully understand the investment, until they feel ready. And while they wait for certainty, which in a dynamic world never fully arrives, other people are iterating, failing, learning, adjusting, and building. Certainty addiction masquerades as wisdom. It feels like due diligence. It feels like responsibility. But underneath it is fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of loss. And that fear, dressed in the clothes of prudence, has kept more intelligent people broke than almost any other pattern on this list. The successful investor doesn't wait for certainty. They get comfortable with probabilistic thinking. They learn to move at 60% confidence, then adjust as more information arrives. The business owner who waits until the business plan is perfect never launches. The investor who waits until the market is clearly rising misses every major entry point. Certainty is comfort. Uncertainty is the address where wealth lives. Pattern 7. Hard work. Illusion. This one is going to feel wrong. Stay with it. Hard work is real. Hard work is necessary. But hard work alone is not the variable that separates people who build wealth from people who don't. The manual laborer works harder, physically, than most hedge fund managers. The night shift nurse works harder than the real estate developer who owns the building. Hard work is the baseline, not the differentiator. The illusion of hard work says, if I just push harder, longer, more intensely, the outcomes will come. And so people push. They work 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. They sacrifice sleep, health, relationships. They hustle with intensity and discipline. But they are running in the wrong direction. Harder, in the wrong direction, just gets you more lost. The question isn't, how hard am I working? The question is, am I working on things that compound? Am I working on skills, assets, and relationships that will be worth more tomorrow than they are today? 1 hour building a system that generates passive income is worth more than 40 hours of activity that resets every Monday morning. Work hard. But first, work smart enough to make sure the thing you're working hard on is actually worth the effort. Pattern 8. Busy thinking versus valuable thinking. The modern world has created a very specific trap: the social performance of productivity. Busy people fill their calendars. They answer every message immediately. They attend every meeting. They are always doing something. And they wear this busyness like a badge. Because in a culture that glorifies hustle, being busy feels like being important. Valuable thinking asks a different question. Not, what can I do today? But, what is the one thing, if done exceptionally well, that changes everything else? There is a massive difference between activity and output, between motion and progress, between appearing productive and actually generating value. In 2026, in an era of AI automation, remote work, and the creator economy, time is no longer the scarce resource. Attention and leverage are. The person who learns to focus 3 deeply concentrated hours on their highest leverage skill will consistently outperform the person who puts in 8 scattered hours of reactive busyness. The busy person runs fast. The valuable person builds things that run without them. Ask yourself tonight, was I busy today, or was I valuable? Pattern 11 is where modern adults quietly lose years, and most of them never notice it's happening. Pattern 9. Income thinking versus cash flow thinking. When most people think about getting wealthy, they think about earning more salary, higher hourly rate, a bigger bonus. Income thinking is linear: work more, earn more, and it contains a fundamental structural problem. It stops the moment you stop working. Cash flow thinking is architectural. Instead of asking, how do I earn more? It asks, how do I build systems that generate income without my direct, continuous labor? The income thinker trades time for money. Every dollar requires a corresponding hour. The cash flow thinker builds assets, rental properties, dividend portfolios, businesses that run with teams, digital products, licensed content that generate income whether they show up or not. There is a fundamental distinction that separates these two mindsets. One builds a job, and the other builds a machine. The job pays while you operate it. The machine pays while you sleep. A person earning $200,000 a year with no assets is one medical emergency, one layoff, one crisis away from financial catastrophe. A person earning $60,000 a year with 3 cash-flowing assets is building a foundation that grows while they sleep. Income feeds your lifestyle. Cash flow funds your freedom. Pattern 10. Cheap thinking versus expensive consequences. Cheap thinking says, save money now. It buys the cheapest shoes, which wear out in 3 months and cost 3 times more over a year. It skips the doctor's visit that would have caught the issue early. It hires the cheapest contractor, then pays twice to fix the work. It takes the lowest salary offer to avoid the discomfort of negotiation, and loses hundreds of thousands of dollars over a career. There is a well-documented principle in behavioral economics. People dramatically overweight immediate small costs and dramatically underweight long-term large consequences. The $20 expense is visible and concrete. The $50,000 consequence is abstract and distant. Cheap thinking is not the same as frugality. A frugal person spends carefully and strategically. A cheap thinker avoids spending emotionally, driven by fear of loss in the moment, blind to the losses accumulating over time. The most expensive things in life are often the ones that seemed to save money at the time. Pattern 11. Entertainment. Thinking versus attention investing. Here is a sentence that should change how you see every idle hour. Your attention is earning money for someone. The question is, who? Every hour spent consuming, scrolling feeds, watching recommended videos, binge streaming content, is an hour of attention being monetized by someone else. The platforms are not free. You are the product. Your focus, your emotional state, your desires, your fears, all of it is being sold to advertisers, to algorithms, to the highest bidder. Entertainment thinking says, I deserve to relax. I've worked hard. This is my downtime. Attention investing says, what if I spent even one of these hours creating instead of consuming? What if the documentary became a newsletter? The scroll became a skill? The binge became a book that opens a door? The creators you follow built their influence by investing attention, not spending it. The investors you admire spent their evenings studying industries, not following celebrities. The entrepreneurs you respect use their commute as a classroom. Nobody is saying eliminate entertainment, but the ratio matters enormously. And in a world where attention is the most valuable currency, the person who controls theirs, rather than leasing it to algorithms, has an extraordinary advantage. The final 4 patterns have almost nothing to do with money, and everything to do with who you believe you are. Pattern 12. Small identity versus expanding identity. You will never consistently behave in ways that contradict your identity. The person who believes, at the core level, that they are not the type of person who is wealthy, will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity that contradicts that belief. The unexpected windfall gets spent. The promotion gets declined. The investment opportunity gets dismissed as too risky. Not because of bad luck, because the identity didn't have room for the outcome. Identity is the operating system. Behaviors are just the applications running on top of it. One of the most profound insights in behavioral psychology is this: sustainable change rarely comes from setting bigger goals. It comes from shifting the story you tell yourself about who you are. Because identity drives behavior at a level that willpower never reaches. Goals are destinations. Identity is the vehicle. Small identity says, I'm not the kind of person who invests. I'm not naturally good with money. People like me don't build businesses. Expanding identity says, I am becoming someone who makes excellent financial decisions. I am building the skills, habits, and mindset of a person who creates lasting wealth. The words you use about yourself in private are architectural. They build the ceiling or remove it. Pattern 13. Scarcity circle versus better room. Show me your 5 closest influences. Not just friends, but the content you consume, the environments you inhabit, the conversations you have most often. And I'll show you the ceiling on your financial life. The scarcity circle is the environment of people who normalize financial struggle, who use phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, I could never afford that. Where ambition is treated with suspicion, where talking about wealth feels embarrassing or arrogant. This isn't a judgment of people in this environment. Most of them are good, hardworking, decent people. But environments set expectations. and expectations become reality. The better room is the environment of people who are operating at a level above yours, where the language around money is different, where investing is assumed, where growth is the norm rather than the exception. You don't need to abandon anyone, but you need to be deliberate about the rooms you enter, physically and digitally. The podcasts, the books, the online communities, the events. The exposure shapes the expectation. The expectation shapes the behavior. Environment isn't everything, but it is the water you swim in. Pattern 14. Victim story versus strategic story. Every person has a story about why their financial situation is what it is. The victim story assigns the cause outside: the economy, the family background, the industry, the lack of connections, the luck other people had that you didn't. The victim story may be entirely factually accurate, and yet it is the single most expensive story a person can tell themselves, not because it makes you feel bad, because it makes you passive. If the cause of your situation is external, then only external forces can change it. You're waiting for rescue, waiting for the economy to improve, waiting for someone to give you a chance. And while you wait, the years pass. The strategic story doesn't pretend difficulty doesn't exist. It says, given what I'm working with, including the unfairness, the obstacles, the disadvantages, what is the smartest possible next move? Immigrants who arrive in a new country with no network, no language fluency, and no resources, and build thriving businesses in a generation. They didn't have an easier story. They had a different relationship with their story. The victim story asks, why did this happen to me? The strategic story asks, given that it happened, what do I do now? That shift is the beginning of everything. Pattern 15. Temporary pain versus permanent pain. This is the last pattern, and in many ways, it is the one that contains all the others. Every decision to avoid short-term discomfort, the difficult conversation not had, the investment delayed, the skill not built, the risk not taken, is a vote for long-term pain. The temporary pain of discipline, of sacrifice, of uncertainty, of doing the hard thing before it becomes urgent. That pain is small, contained, and generative. The permanent pain of regret is none of those things. It doesn't shrink over time. It grows. It compounds. It arrives in quiet moments, in the gap between where you are and where you know you could have been, if you had been willing to bear a little more discomfort a little earlier. The people who build real wealth are not fearless. They are not naturally disciplined. They are not immune to the pull of comfort. They have simply made a calculation, consciously or intuitively, that the temporary pain of building is categorically different from the permanent pain of not trying. They chose the pain that produces something over the pain that only takes. Wealth rarely begins in your bank account. It begins the moment your mind stops choosing relief and starts choosing value. It begins when your habits stop serving your old identity and start building a new one. It begins when you stop surviving and start constructing. These 15 patterns are not character flaws. They are not signs of weakness or failure. They are the natural output of brains running outdated programs in a world that has changed. The person who rewrites those programs, slowly, patiently, deliberately, doesn't just earn more. They become someone different, someone capable of receiving, sustaining, and growing wealth in ways their old self could not have imagined. If any part of this shifted how you see your own thinking, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Rich Explained for more deep dives into the psychology of money, status, leverage, and freedom. The patterns end when the awareness begins.